What is going on, NFC South, the Roundtable? It is your usual suspects back at it again with another video. You guys are probably watching this wondering, where's TJ, the Saints representative? Where's Smitty, the Falcons representative? If you guys watched our latest live stream, which if you haven't, make sure you go ahead and check that out. You would know that they currently are out for this week. They'll be back next week. So for this week, we got James for the Bucs. We got Clay for the Panthers, and we got a lot to still get into. Today, we're going to be talking about where do the Buccaneers, where do the Panthers officially go from here now that the 2024 season is officially over for both? Clay, we know that your Panthers ultimately were not able to make it to the postseason. James, we know that your Buccaneers won the division. They were able to make it to the postseason, but unfortunately fell short to the Washington Commanders. So your season is now done too. Where your teams go is a big question. That's what we're going to be breaking down today. But before we do that, I want to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this video over at BetUS. Right now, when you guys sign up, super quick, done it myself, takes less than 60 seconds, and you use the promo code when you sign up, YouTube 150. That is YouTube 150. You will lock yourselves into a limited time exclusive offer of a 150% sign up bonus on your first deposit, followed by 125 on your next two, all the way up to $2,000. That is a deal on your first three deposits. I mean, we got the playoffs here. We got the Super Bowl here. This is the best and most fun time to place your bets. And now that you can get this exclusive offer, it makes it even a little bit more fun. Now, I understand your teams, they're not playing anymore. So some of you might not want to bet because, again, it's not your team. And I 100% get that. But the best thing with BetUS is that they have the best betting variety in the business. So if you don't want to bet on football, that's okay, because you can get this sign-up bonus with the NBA, with hockey, baseball right around the corner, politics, entertainment, fighting, horse racing. You name it, BetUS is going to have it, and the deal doesn't stop there because they're also giving you 10% back on your net losses 2 times a year. Play smart, though. Play responsible. Never bet more than you can afford to lose, but a massive shout-out to BetUS for sponsoring today's video. We could not be here without them. But fellas, let's just hop into the topic for today. And James, I want to start with you. Like I said, your Buccaneers are officially eliminated from playoff contention, which means the offseason is now here for you guys. Where do you guys go from here? Talk to me. Do you make any coaching changes, any personnel changes? Where do you guys go to get ready for 2025?
Well, that's the first step, right? Is what do you want to do with your coaching staff if you're the Bucs? We talked about it in the live stream. I think a chunk of it hinges on, well, a big piece of it hinges, I guess I should say, on what happens with Liam Cohen. If the Bucs are in danger of losing Liam Cohen, quite honestly, don't be surprised if he's the next head coach this offseason, right? And they move on from Todd Bowles. If you're able to keep Liam Cohen in the building, I would still expect some defensive coaching staff changes. I think you have to at this point. Now, Todd Bowles had a very interesting quote following the season, which to me was not the best quote in the world. He did say, well, these are the defensive coaches that helped us make the playoffs 5 years in a row, which to me came off as a bit arrogant and a bit short-sighted in terms of things. But that's the first question that you have to address. And I think some defensive coaching or some coaching changes have to happen specifically on the defensive side of the ball, be it positional changes or be it going all the way to the top and making Liam Cohen your next head coach. But I think that's the first step. I think that will be something that does happen in some way, shape, or form. I think it would be pretty disappointing if it's just a matter of, well, let's run it back with the defensive coaches that we have and go from there. It would be majorly disappointing if the Bucs were to let Liam Cohen leave the building. But I really don't believe that is a possibility. But that is the first question is, what do you do with this coaching staff? And it can go a lot of different directions, right? And I feel like before you even begin to address team needs, you have to think about that coaching staff, because we talked about it in the live stream. In some ways it is, well, I guess I should say in a lot of ways it is holding back the Bucs, especially on the defensive side of that ball, where I do believe some changes need to be made, either in some mild ways or in some major ways.
Yeah, and real quick, too, I would just want to ask you, James, because I know there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to target this guy, and that is Chris Godwin. He is a pending free agent. Is this a guy that you think and do you want the Buccaneers to re-sign after he is coming off of a pretty brutal season-ending injury?
Yes to both. I think that, yeah, I mean, yes, I do want him back. Obviously, I do believe Bucks fans do as well. People forget, like, he was on a career year before the injury happened, right? And he's still only, I believe he's 28 years old. Maybe 29. I'm pretty sure he's 28. But point being is that he's still got a few good years left in him. And the Bucks value Chris Godwin a lot, right? And Mike Evans, 30, 31 now, right? He's certainly not getting any younger. When his season's up, when his time is up, you're still going to want a couple more years left of Godwin. People forget, in terms of statistics and whatnot, yes, Mike Evans is the top wide receiver in Buccaneers history. Chris Godwin's number 2 in most metrics in team history. So that matters, right? The Buccaneers literally have the best wide receiver duo in their entire team history. So that matters. And whenever you see the continuity, and we do talk about continuity a lot here on the NFC South Roundtable, you want good continuity, right? And part of that is bringing back Chris Godwin. So yes, I would say that it is more likely than not that Godwin will be back.
Well, all right, Clay, I want to switch this on over to you because your Carolina Panthers, their season is done. Another disappointing season, but you guys picked up momentum when it mattered the most. And that was when the season progressed at the end of the year. You knew you were out, but you just said, you know what? We're going to play spoiler, right? The Carolina Reapers is what you guys were known as by the end of the year. Where do you guys go here now in 2025 to hopefully start contending for the first time in years?
Yeah, despite the poor record and the outlook had drastically, improved, right? And then the team, and for me again, showed enough growth to make, I feel like, any Panthers fan feel a little brighter, right? Like, about the future. And there were clear signs that the foundation for a better team was being built. The coaching change, Bryce Young's development, and a few key individual performances were enough for me to make that outlook feel more optimistic, even if the win-loss record didn't fully reflect it, right? Going forward, though, Carolina has to look at themselves in the mirror and say, what is it that we can do to improve? And the biggest thing is you got to revamp this defense. And I'm talking about a complete overhaul, right? Like you finished bottom tier in almost every single defensive category. And people say, well, Ajiro Evero is the issue, and not really. You look at the talent on this roster. They're using practice squad players where none of these guys anywhere else in the NFL would start. They would. They'd be practice squad there too. So you got to look at the talent before you say, well, Ajiro Evero's scheme isn't working. And yes, he runs a 3-4 complex scheme. It's a bend, don't break defense, but it's very complex. And so, yeah, it's probably a difficult scheme to learn. But at the same time, Ajiro Evero was hyped up as this defensive coordinator that was just this mastermind in the defensive coordinating position and was supposed to be a head coach last year. And our owner refused to allow him to go interview and retain him again. And to me, that tells me that they believe in Ajiro Evero and they believe in his scheme, but they believe that they just need to bring in the right talent and depth to build this defense the way he needs it and the way it's supposed to be run, right? And for them to do that, they have to go get an elite pass rusher. In this complex 3-4 scheme that he runs, the pass rushing is the biggest need on this team. You need a versatile outside guy that can get off the edge and get some pressure on the quarterback. But you also need linebackers that can fill their gaps, but also cover well. So it's like you need Brian Burns and Luke Kuechly all over again. So it's like, it's just like, so it's like, again, you got to revamp this defense. Going forward, that's something that we're going to have to look at this offseason. They've already made changes on the defensive staff, so they're already changing up the staff on Evero's staff. And so, I think he's got I think Evero has the ability to turn things around if the personnel is improved. As for, I think you need to have a contingency plan at running back. I know we went and got Jonathan Brooks last year, but he re-tore the same ACL this year. And then obviously you got Chuba Hubbard, who emerged as the team's workhorse back. But with Jonathan Brooks, who suffered another ACL just in 3 games after finally returning to the field, you got to really look at yourself. And Miles Sanders had an impressive performance in that season finale against Atlanta. But the problem is with Miles Sanders is that he failed to live up to expectations for the second consecutive year. And with how his cap hit is looming large over our heads, I think he's a strong candidate for a release. So I think they have to go look at some running backs this offseason. And again, some other positions like the safety, they need an overhaul in that position. Xavier Woods had some moments this year, but just still lack consistency. That's the biggest thing for Carolina, is getting guys who could be consistent. Jordan Fuller failed to live up to his billing. Sam Franklin is just a special teams ace for us. So the safety position, I think, is huge for us. And then last but not least, I would say you need to get Bryce Young a wide receiver 1 going forward. There's more needs to that, and I know we'll probably dive more into that as we go on through the NFC South Roundtable on this show more, which we'll dive into. But you got to surround Bryce Young with better receivers. Like, you can't expect Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker and a 34-year-old Adam Thielen to continue to help develop Bryce Young into what you want him to be. I think a true number 1 wide receiver is out there just waiting for us to bring him in. So the path forward for Carolina is that they have the chance to right the ship after 2 consecutive losing seasons. You got a promising young head coach who was this year, I think, kind of learning how to be a head coach, right? You got a promising young quarterback, right? You got an ample amount of resources at our disposal. You got the blueprint for success is within reach. So for them to achieve that success, they've got to make some smart moves going forward, address the defense, complete overhaul, add a little bit of offensive firepower, adjust some of this coaching staff that's necessary, and you can set the stage for our bright 2025 season.
Well, hey, guys, you heard it from James. You heard it from Clay. This is exactly where the Buccaneers and the Panthers should go as we enter the 2025 offseason. So much to go through. I mean, you have staff changes first. Then you have, of course, the new league year starting free agency, then the draft, and then everything starts wrapping up with practices. Yeah, I know a lot of you Saints fans and you Falcons fans, you want to know where your teams are going to head, and we are going to hear from TJ. We're going to hear from Smitty about not the Buccaneers, but the Falcons rather, and the Saints. So that's something you guys will have to stay tuned for. But let us know in the comment section below what you think about the direction of the Panthers and the direction of the Buccaneers. We want to hear from you. Leave a big like on your way out. Subscribe here to the NFC South Roundtable. Also subscribe to these guys' individual channels, links in the description box below. But until next Tuesday, live at 7 p.m. Eastern, stay safe.